Welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday. The On Texas Football live stream is just that, live and talking to you on all things Texas football. Big recruiting news and developments going down around the Lone Star State. Texas with another big recruiting weekend coming up. Jeff Howe will lock us in on what's to come. Rod Babers as well. Also, of course, countdown days to the start of the college football season. Gosh, today is the 17th of June. That means we're inside a month to SEC Media Day, Atlanta, Georgia. That'll start on the Monday, 15th of July. So looking forward to that. And Jedi Master Bevo's already in. So we appreciate you guys tonight. The football conversation never stops. Also, we'll see where Chris Del Conte has tweeted the official results that the Longhorns have once again won the Directors' Cup for the fourth time in 5 years. That is for overall athletic department success. And Rod, Jeff, it's, gosh, the Directors' Cup was something none of us had ever heard of up to 5 years ago. And, it was just one of those things that was a formality that Stanford would win and Stanford would bring home. And they won 25 straight years. Now Chris Del Conte, who now, guys, in his 8 years since 2017, the Longhorns have won 15 national championships, 70 conference championships, and 4 Directors' Cups under his leadership and development of the athletic department. Kudos to CDC.
To me, the director, I think it should, obviously everybody's probably got some different, it holds some different meaning for each of kind of the different fan bases, right? Because it's the entire athletic department. So football fan, baseball fans, and, women's basketball fans, that kind of thing. You probably have it probably has a different meaning to you and probably what you contributed to the overall success of the athletic department. But for me, it's basically about CDC lifting the floor of the athletic department once and for all. Like that, to me, now it seems like across the board, there are very few, if any, sports performing poorly at all. Like they are all just performing. Like the standard now, like the minimum standard seems to be, all right, we expect y'all to be top 10 and in the conversation to win a championship of some kind, national championship, conference championship. Got to be like that seems to be like the minimum standard now for most of sports. And when that's not happening, it seems like there's pressure that compels CDC to make a change, to go get the right coach that can help kind of live up to that standard. So to me, that's what it's about. Now, the ceiling for the athletic department is you got to start winning championships in the big sports, the revenue sports, the ones that drive the television ratings, and the ones now. I'm not. By the way, I think softball is becoming a bigger sport. So shout out to softball. Volleyball has a really, I think, increasing popularity, right, and a kind of a niche fan base around the country. But we all know there are like 3 main revenue driving sports, and the ones that drive the television ratings as well. And I think that's where Texas football, they're close, Final Four. Baseball, of course, we had one of the better teams in the country last season, and basketball. That's why you just hired a new head coach. That's, those are the sports. Women's basketball, throw that in the conversation too. And Vic Schaefer and his crew are getting closer. So I think that's, to me, the next step. But there's no doubt right now the minimum standard at Texas is excellence.
Yeah. Well, and this year, in the first year in the SEC, Jeff, they compete in 19 sports, Texas, for folks out there that don't know. 8 men's, 11 women's sports they compete in the NCAA. And they were in the top 10, to your point, Rod, top 10 in the country in 15 of the 19. Finished. Top 10 of the 19. The only 4 that didn't, cross country, obviously Rodney Terry and men's basketball did not. And then men's outdoor and indoor track and field didn't have a great year for Edric Floreal. But other than that, the 15 others were competing in the top 10. And that's where Chris Del Conte has made that's his secret sauce, or at least that's what he believes. We'll give you everything you need to compete in the top 10 in the country. And if you do, year by year, eventually you're going to kick the door in and win a national championship like softball finally did. We'll put you the final stats up there as far as how it played out. But Jeff, your thoughts on what you see? You covered this program a long, long time.
All right, so here's my thing. I've had some hot sports opinions about the Directors' Cup before, so I'll just say this, right? It's a great thing that Texas won the Directors' Cup. I take nothing away from the athletic department. It's a great accomplishment. And my thing is, the Directors' Cup to me is kind of like recruiting rankings. Like once you get to a certain point, like I don't think you should be looking at ultimate success or failure based on some arbitrary numbers, right? Like to me, once you have a top 5 recruiting class, doesn't matter if you finish 4th, 3rd, 5th, whatever. you've got an elite class. If you shouldn't want to fire Edric Floreal because men's track and field finished 34th and cost you Director's Cup points. Question the track and field coach if a 34th place finish at nationals is not up to your standard as an athletic department, but let's not start placing Director's Cup points on
You're right about that.
the fates of coaches, right? So that's where I'm at with it. I didn't feel like, hey, if the USC women's mile relay team finishes a certain point and USC ends up winning the Director's Cup, that doesn't suddenly mean Texas had a bad athletic year, right? Yeah. So that's where I'm at with the Director's Cup. So you're in the mix for it, and you can look at each individual sports. I'm with you 100%, Rod. CDC's raised the floor for your Olympic sports and your Olympic sports at Texas. I think it's pretty clear, even as we go forward into whatever revenue sharing is going to look like. The Olympic sports at Texas are going to be taken care of as much as possible. But now it's time for men's and women's basketball, definitely football, baseball. You know, when I was growing up, it felt like a lifetime between 1983 and 2002. That was your gap between baseball national championships. That was 19 years. You're at 20 now in baseball. So now you've got another generation of Texas fans. They don't really know what it's like for Texas to win a baseball national championship. So if you're of a certain age, you just don't know what that experience is. You're of a certain age now where you don't know what that's like in football. So it's time. You know, I was a year out of high school when the men's basketball team went to the Final Four last. So it's time for those big money sports to really start getting to the point where not only are you getting to the CFP, you're getting to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, you're getting to Omaha. It's time to see some of those starting to break through.
Well, and I would say to both of y'all's points, which are right on. I mean, there you see the total tally board. I will say, USC here only 2 points behind Texas for the final thing. If the Aggies men's outdoor track and field team had not tied them for the national title and USC had won it outright, USC would have won. So give A&M a little credit. A&M did a favor to Texas by tying them on the outdoor track and field. That pushed the Longhorns over by just 2 points. Stanford right on the heels as well, only 4 points separating the three schools. And, great years for all of them. And as you see, I mean, the way it accumulates, 100 points each for softball and men's swim and dive for the national championships, 85 for third place. And then men's basketball, obviously, down at 5 points. That was the low water mark. And that's why there was a change there. But it does feel like, Rod, you were playing at Texas. I just remember in the late 90s getting my, get into radio and covering the Crystal CD or De Los Dodds at the time, introducing, Augie Garrido, Rick Barnes, and Mac Brown pretty much in succession. And that triumvirate took Texas to a 10-year run. And it feels like Cristo Conti has kind of done this a little bit backwards. He's got the Olympic sports and the women's sports. He got the right people in place. And now I feel like he's got his men's triumvirate in place at the revenue drivers. Sark's been there 5 years now going into it. Jim Schlossnagle, yes, had a bad postseason, but injuries derailed that. But, great regular season. And then, bringing Sean Miller in, someone he's had his eyes on for a while. To your guys' point, if those three coaches lift it and get it going like the women's side has and the Olympic sports, this thing's gonna really take off in a big picture, right into the New World Order, the House settlement, and everything else. So pretty exciting times. And I would just say props not just to CDC, but the coaches that he's hired and identified, and then all the leadership of the athletic department. That's an athletic department wide award. And you hear the coaches. We had Mike White on. I know you guys did too. Talk about how each sport drives one another, and the other athletes come out and support it. And they're at the softball games, and they're at the basketball games, and they're at the football games. I just think that's really cool to see the camaraderie within the athletic department for all the sports and kind of driving that unified success.
Yeah, a lot of cross promotion going on in the Texas athletic department. Smart move. I mean, I think it's organic, authentic. I don't think it's just something that they're putting out there for just public consumption. I do think it's genuine behind the scenes with the coaches support each other. And also the players. I mean, you see the players going to other sporting events. That happened when I was playing, but not to the degree it is now. It's definitely something now that they take pride in. It was just happening, I think, like individually with different people back in the day, but now it seems to be kind of a unified movement that they go out of their way to support the other programs. I think it's fantastic for the culture And then when you come, I think it does help recruiting in all those sports. I think I'm not saying it's the tipping factor. I'm not saying it's the one that tips the scales or anything, but I do think that it helps in recruiting that you do have this kind of celebrity cross promotion. Arch Manning going to baseball games, softball games, and CJ Baxter, that kind of stuff. It does. I think it does help to kind of promote that unanimity and that family atmosphere that they talk about a lot behind the scenes.
For sure. Jeff, you're muted right there.
I know I was going to do it at some point. To your point, Rod, it switched from, we were at a point not too long ago where if Bijan showed up at a baseball game or a men's basketball game or a women's basketball game, like it was attention grabbing. It would go viral. Now you're at the point where, hey, if Arch is in the suite at a baseball game, then it's a big deal. But just to see like you said, to see CJ Baxter at the softball World Series, like it's a really good culture at Texas right now. I know we throw that word around a lot and it gets used a lot, but it ain't lip service, man. You don't have to talk about culture when you see it. When you see it being practiced, when you see good culture every day on and off the field, like, hey, that group of guys that went with Ryan Wingo to St. Louis for his football camp,
like, pretty badass.
Good culture is like having a physical football team, Rod. You shouldn't have to tell me about it for me to see it. I should be able to see it. And with Texas across the board, I see it.
Yep.
Yeah. That was cool to have Arch there, and you're getting a glimpse of just how big Arch is outside of Austin. Even everywhere he goes, there's a Pied Piper effect, and people want to touch and see Arch Manning. That'll get going in earnest here. 2 months in the Ohio State game, 2.5 months. We'll get to see his first start in Columbus, Ohio. Obviously, fall camp coming. Jeff, Rod, any doubt when we get a month out to SEC Media Days, Arch Manning will be there? Do you think?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I mean,
Sark will take him.
Yes.
Even as okay, I agree. It'll be he and probably maybe a Trey Wisner. I'm just trying to think who will come, offense, defense.
Yeah.
Anthony Hill will be there for sure. Michael Taft, but I'm just trying to think. It's almost like the SEC media would be pretty upset if Arch wasn't there coming up in July.
SEC media, Longhorn media, everybody would be upset.
Oh, we all will, yeah.
Everybody would be upset with Sark at that point, and they will have the biggest media scrum around him. That I don't know if we ever seen it. Probably since Tebow, maybe since like a Tebow, or trying to think maybe Burrow might have had a big one. But I'm just talking about since a big star in the SEC. And I don't even know his Burrow, because Burrow coming in. Remember that year he wasn't big coming in. He blew up that year.
For the SEC, Roddy, probably Johnny Manziel. Honestly, if we're being honest, probably Johnny.
That's a good one.
Here.
Yeah, you're right.
Even like it wasn't SEC, but like Sam at Big 12 Media Days, the year coming off the Sugar Bowl win over Georgia, that was a circus. But it's nothing like what I'm expecting we're going to see from Arch. And if you're Sark, I think you have to for two reasons. One, if you don't bring him, that's all anybody's going to ask you about while you're down there. And two, man, just bring him just for the national media, the conference media, the regional media. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Just let Arch go through that media day car wash one time. That's the only time he's got to do it. Be done with it, and then he can settle in and just focus on being the best quarterback he can be.
He's so savvy, though. Like, he's so savvy, and he's such a natural with the media. If I was Sark, I'd be confident to put him out there in any situation that he would handle himself well, say the right things. I mean, he's a Manning. Yeah, I mean, he has been taught on many levels, and from the best who've ever done it on how to conduct yourself with the media. So not only the Manning brand, he's had his tutorials from the Manning brand on how to conduct yourself and what to say to media, and then Texas and John Bianco, and they do a great job as well. So I'm confident that you'll get some nice sound bites, but it won't be anything juicy enough to go viral about anything. But because I think he knows to give you a little bit too. Like, he knows. That's the beautiful thing about him. He's been taught by the Manning brand, like, no, you got to give him a little something. Just don't give him too much, and don't give him anything that can be considered controversial or that can go viral. And he knows how to walk the line, just give you just enough so you can go print your article and write up about Arch, but you ain't going to get no bulletin board material, nothing like that. Nope,
I will say, I don't know, because like last year, obviously Quinn Ewers was a big factor. Jalen, got Alabama quarterback last year. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss.
Jalen,
big names. but this year, man, I mean, it's going to be Arch for sure, and get to meet John McTeer from Oklahoma. I'm sure he'll be there. You got Lenora Sellers and Garrett Nussmeyer. But did you see what Diego Pavi at Vanderbilt was saying today? He was popping off, man. I want to see him at SEC Media Days. Come on, man.
That dude, I don't know what's going. I know. Listen, I've said he's a likes to fight guy at quarterback.
Oh yeah.
Even some of the stuff that he's saying, because first of all, okay, this the quote about him. I said he says if you want to play with the best, you don't want to play with the Big Ten. You ignore those calls. He was just because he first he championed the SEC, which I guess is cool. But then he got in a trash talking battle, I think, with Alabama wide receiver, right, from Alabama.
Yeah.
Ryan Williams.
Yeah. So, well, he said we're going to run Tennessee at one point.
Yeah.
We're about to run Tennessee.
This is going to be the new staple of college football. It's going to be here at Vanderbilt. Yeah. Said they're going to run Tennessee. Oh, we shall see.
My immediate thought was I hope Clark Lee brings him to Atlanta. We don't let that get in the way of bringing him. Come on now, we need him to be there.
He's got to. Oh, he's got to bring him.
Got to bring him. So that'll be fun. That's in 1 month, the third week of July, Monday through Thursday, 4 teams a day. Texas, just you're marking your calendar, is the Tuesday, second day there. Texas A&M and Mike Elko, I believe, will be the fourth day. We got some recruiting news coming out of College Station, which we'll get to here in a minute. But first, Rod, talking about Andy Ludicky for the first time tonight. We appreciate them on a Tuesday night, every night, one of our key partners on this Tuesday live stream on the On Texas Football channel.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. You may be someone like myself who has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy and his team, they'll take you through a very detailed process to help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, reach out to Andy and his team today, and they'll take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, reach out to Andy today. Give him a call at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. And we really appreciate Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football.
All right. So Jeff, how can you run us through the news? I really, all I saw, and did no research on this, but I saw a tweet from Billy Lucci down at Texas A&M, Texags, talking about number 2 recruiting class. I think Matthew might have that. What are the developments on the recruiting trail? We know Texas picked up 5 commitments a week ago. They had a big class come in this past weekend, and a lot of those guys already have firm dates where they're going to announce their intentions, which could be Texas. But so far, no commitments this week for Texas. But what's going on with the Aggies?
Yeah, I'll get to the Aggies big picture here in a second. But one, you can give A&M a head-to-head win over Texas for KJ Edwards, the running back out of Carthage who committed today. And no question. He's supposed to visit Texas this weekend, cancel the visit, commits to Texas A&M. Yesterday, A&M picked up one of my favorite prospects in the class, Samuel Roseboro, offensive lineman out of Clearwater, Florida. We've talked about this. Jerry and I have talked about it. CJ and I have talked about it. We talked about it on this live stream. You're getting to the point where the Texas staff has some tough decisions they have to make with offensive line recruits, and the recruits themselves have some tough decisions that they have to make. And if it's even and school A giving potentially substantially more in terms of an NIL guarantee than school B, even though you might like the conditions at school B better, school A is going to win out. That's pretty much what the deal was with Samuel Roseboro. The football fit. I mean, his mom lives in Austin, works in Austin.
Wow.
The football fit was Texas. A&M came in with a better NIL offer. That's not me knocking the Aggies. That's not me saying A&M cheated or anything like that. That's within the rules. That's playing within the rules. A&M is perfectly well within their means to do that. So I got no problem with that. The KJ Edwards thing stings because while you've still got plenty of options on the offensive line, and you're bringing in John Turntine this weekend, that's a big deal for Texas. Trying to getting him on campus before he makes the decision. Man, you're an Xavier Crowell decision away from, if you're Chad Scott, really having to reset your running back board, because pretty much all your top in-state targets now are committed elsewhere. Xavier Crowell is your top remaining out-of-state target. Looks like Alabama's leading there. Auburn's still in that one. Georgia's still in that one. Texas is still hanging around. But if he picks Alabama or Auburn, decides to stay close to home, I mean, you can go make a run at Derek Cooper, but you didn't get him on campus for an official visit this summer. I don't expect him to give up on KJ Edwards, but you got some thinking to do at running back. And it may not be a 2 running back class like you ideally wanted. You may just have to evaluate this fall and say, hey, just take the best guy available that pops up. And maybe if we can flip one of these guys, go ahead and do it. So they got to reset the board a little bit. Look, I'll say this about Texas A&M, man. And Aggies, take this however you want. This is the A&M beating Texas head-to-head for recruits does not concern me, because it'll concern me when A&M starts winning games of consequence and starts playing for SEC championships. But until that happens, until they stop being the most underachieving program in the country, they can buy whoever they want, do whatever they want, build a roster however they want. It will not matter. And I'll trust Sark and the Sark and company are doing it the right way. If they finish with the number 1 class in the country, I've seen A&M do that. And how'd that work out? Jimbo Fisher ended up getting fired after putting that class together. So Texas A&M putting together a top-ranked class doesn't concern me, because they've always done that and it hasn't panned out. So I guess wake me up whenever that translates into victories on the field.
Yeah, agreed. I will say for Mike Elko, I mean, his plan, he wants to be the best running team in the conference and play great defense. I mean, that's really what he's all about, coming in and to get one of the top running backs and a big offensive lineman. I mean, that goes to what Colin Klein and their offense wants to be with Marcel Reed, more of a K-State kind of offense, and run the football, play great defense. But you're right, they've got to put up some wins in big games before it's going to be a problem.
To kind of punctuate that, with the KJ Edwards recruitment, I think for A&M it boils down to them not wanting to be in the situation they were in last year. Rod, if you remember, I mean, they were chugging along, they were doing well. Even losing Reuben Owens before the start of the year hurt. They lost him in the scrimmage, just like Texas lost Jay Baxter to an injury in the preseason. Yep. They were doing fine with Le'Veon Moss, but when Le'Veon Moss got hurt, their offense cratered. It was not the same offense. And I think this is Mike Elko and Trooper Taylor and Colin Klein saying, we're not going to be in a position where our offense craters just because we don't have enough running backs. To your point, E, if you're going to be that kind of team that wants to pride yourself on being a power running team, you better have a loaded stable of running backs. And it's going to take you 2 or 3 really good ones to get through an SEC schedule and be able to compete for a championship. So I think that's them doubling down, loading up, and saying, hey, we want to make sure that we got plenty of bodies. Even if we lose 2 or 3 guys to injury, we've still got a quality back in the stable. I think that to me is why it shouldn't be about topping Texas or beating Texas. It should be about taking care of your backyard. So I hope that's why A&M did what they did to get KJ Edwards.
Yeah, when Moss went down, he was one of the leaders in the SEC in rushing. He was averaging like 3.9 yards per 3 yards per carry, 3 yards per carry after contact.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was doing a lot of that work himself, but the O-line was playing well. They were just a way more explosive offense with him as a running back. He was special. So not sure how he's coming back after the injury, but I agree with you, Jeff. That offense took a huge step back, and that was a huge setback losing him.
Yeah, it was. And Reuben Owens, much like C.J. Baxter for Texas, got hurt in the camp. So did Reuben Owens out of El Campo, the speed backs. And those guys are all back this year. They want to run the football. There's no doubt about that. And I do think Mike Elko is a better coach than Jimbo Fisher. But, how much better, we'll find out. They got to win some football games down at College Station. But good for them. And people weighing in on Billy Lucci's mullet in the comments. I like that. It's got some game with the mullet.
Hey, that mullet says Aggie, though. That's why it says
Proud Aggie. Dang. I'm all in on that. All right. So we've got that.
I would say this, too. Like I see Rex St. Charles says Jeff now joins Jerry on the Billy Lucci hit list. I got no problem with Lucci. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me anything I just said about A&M in my lifetime. For the record, I was born in 1983. Tell me anything I just said about Texas A&M being the most underachieving program in the country, that I've seen them have number 1 classes, and it didn't mean jack squat. Tell me where I'm factually wrong, and I'll come back and retract. But I'm not. Everybody watching this and listening knows I'm not. All the Aggies that are hate watching this and hate listening know I'm not. So it's not it's not vitriol if you're just spitting facts.
It is. Yeah. I mean, they, preseason top 10 that and finish unranked over and over again. Mike Elko was brought in to stabilize it. We'll see if this is part of that. At least he has the vision and a game plan, much like Sark did with how he wants to build his roster and build his team. What about Sark and what about this recruiting weekend, Jeff? I mentioned that a lot of the guys that came in this past weekend, the big out-of-state, 5 and high star guys, already have dates set of when they're going to announce. So they're not going to come off of those, right?
Yeah, it's going to actually get started on Thursday. Another one of my favorite recruits in the class, Drake Quinn, the defensive end out of Atlanta, the edge out of Atlanta. He's going to announce on Thursday. That's a Texas-Clemson battle at this point. You got Vodney Cleveland, the defensive lineman from Alabama, who Texas made a really big impression on him with the visit last weekend. He's going to announce his decision on Saturday. Then next week, after the visit weekend, you've got Xavier Crowell on Thursday, Malachi Lee on Friday, and Xavier Griffin on Saturday. So next week's going to be another one of those big commitment weekends. But this, as far as this weekend goes, even with KJ Edwards out of the picture, you still, for your in-state guys, you still got Caden Finley, son of Jermichael Finley, coming in. You got John Turntine, who, along with Felix Ojo, probably the top 2 offensive line targets on the board. You got Kosi Okpala, who probably your top off-ball linebacker target in the state. You got Kendall Graville coming in, the defensive lineman out of the state of Florida. Trenton Henderson, who the defensive end out of Pensacola, the edge out of Pensacola, really, really talented kid. You've got several out-of-state edge guys coming in. So it's another massive weekend for Texas, not just in terms of quantity, but quality. I think the edge picture will get sorted out after this weekend. If Caden Finley, if there's some movement there, then maybe you see some things start to happen with wide receivers. So I think after this weekend, I think depending on who you see here about Texas getting back in contact with, maybe it's guys that they were in contact with in the spring and then things fell off. I think that'll tell you kind of what to look for, to how to read the tea leaves on some of these decisions. In other words, if we start hearing about wide receivers popping up that Texas is in contact with, maybe they don't feel great about Jalen Lott and or Caden Finley. Same thing with edge. If you hear new names popping up or names that were maybe on the periphery that are now top targets, maybe they didn't like where things stand with some of these edge guys. So I'll say this too, and then I'll turn it back over to you guys and I'll shut up and stop talking. I wrote a story. I got a story over on TexasFootball.com, and I quoted Sark from the Touchdown Club of Houston luncheon in May, where he was talking about, hey, Texas going to the SEC. He looked at it as a plus because of the recruiting footprint being in the conference now. You can get on I-20 and I-10 in the state of Texas and just work your way east, go through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, going down to Georgia and to Florida and up into the Carolinas. That's their recruiting footprint now, and that excites Sark. Sark has the stomach to get into these high leverage recruiting battles. These battles are high risk, but they're very high reward. We saw it pay off for Texas last spring. You're not going to win all of them. That's the thing with getting in these battles. You're going to lose your share. You're going to win your share. You're going to lose your share. But I think Texas fans should like that you've got a staff and a head coach that are in the fight for guys. This isn't like Charlie Strong and the end of Mac Brown, and to a certain extent Tom Herman, where you're fighting Houston and Baylor and Texas Tech and TCU for recruits. You're going up against Clemson and Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. Like you're fighting against teams that year in, year out are competing to be or expect to be in the college football playoff. That's who you're recruiting against at this point. Those are the battles that if you win your share of them, you're going to be in the running in the SEC. You're going to be in the running for a national championship. So I think if you're a Texas fan and you're down on the news today, just trust that you've got a coach and a coaching staff and an organization with the stomach to get into the battle. And yeah, they might lose some high leverage ones, but history shows they're going to win their share. They're going to end up with a class, regardless of where it's ranked, that's going to get this program another step closer to winning a national title.
Yep. And they recruit to the whistle, that's Jerry's saying, and I like it because they recruit to the whistle, and they're all about closing strong.
Yep.
CJ put up a really cool tweet that he had bumped from, I think, a year ago, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, from Sark. And I think Matthew has it, as CB was referencing it as well, that, Sark and his staff, I remember Brandon Harris talking about this on an interview as well. They're not really concerned with where they stand in the recruiting rankings at this point of the year. That they're all about, when the recruiting cycle ends and that talent acquisition cycle is over, that's when they look at their class overall, and that's where they want to be one of the top classes in the country. And I agree with Jeff. I think Sark has, pretty much earned the trust that he'll get you close to a top 5 class. Especially when they are basically banking on gaining momentum from the season too, which is what they do. They get momentum.
You guys know how it works. It's June the 17th now. So all it takes is A&M or Auburn or LSU to get off to a slow start. I mean, they got some tough early games. They lose some games in September. All of a sudden the rabble starts for Brian Kelly and, kind of shakes your recruiting class. We know how those things work. If Auburn gets off to Auburn plays Baylor, if memory serves, on a Friday night to start the season, for crying out loud, in Waco. If they were to drop that game, you start to hear some rattling coming out of Auburn without a doubt. And those things, that's the point. And you recruit to the finish, and stay in touch with these guys. Hey, let's tell you about Advanced Pain Care, and then I have a question for you guys about one of the newer coaches on this staff that I'm hearing really good things about, Jeff and Rod. But go ahead and tell us with some Longhorn legends. If you're dealing with some pain, don't put it off. Get in and see our friends at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Hey, Jeff, you said this weekend things might sort itself out at the edge position. I've heard some good things on LeAllen Clark, the new edge coach, and got some friends back in Columbus that aren't real happy that he left at Ohio State. They got to let him out of there. He seems like one of those good gets for Sark that, pass rushers and really keep teaching the science of pass rush. So important to have a Colin Simmons obviously doesn't hurt, to showcase that. But at the same time, LeAllen Clark with those two guys at Ohio State's always had great pass rushers. That feels like a premium hire that they landed kind of under the radar too.
Man, I think the two best endorsements that LeAllen Clark has gotten to this point, what JTT and Jack Sawyer had to say about him at the Combine. I mean, when they were asked about LeAllen Clark, they both talked about how much he helped develop them as pass rushers to get them ready, not just to help Ohio State win a national championship, but to help get them ready for the NFL. So nothing but glowing reviews from a players on the team that just won a national championship on how important LeAllen Clark was. And then I thought it was cool. I forget how many – I know Dre Quinn was on campus the weekend I'm talking about, but one of the guys that LeAllen Clark has trained privately is Charles Amenahu. And the weekend that Dre Quinn was in town for his unofficial visit during spring ball, Charles was up there getting some work and meeting with LeAllen Clark. So it's like, hey, if you want to know how good a coach LeAllen Clark is, Charles Amenahu's in the NFL, and he comes back. Granted, Charles lives in Austin, so it's easier now. He trains with LeAllen Clark in the offseason. So you've got a guy right there that's in the NFL that can tell you how good LeAllen Clark is. So I just think regardless of, what recruits he's bringing in, or anything like that, I just think the fact that the guy has, such really good ringing endorsements, such great reviews from guys that are either in or on their way to the NFL, man, if I'm a recruit, that's enough to get me excited.
Yeah. Well, and Rod, you talk about having, natural coverage skills, natural pass rush skills, and a guy like Colin Simmons has them, but you can develop them. They can be better, right? And you talk about making money in the NFL and making money. It's about getting the quarterback, covering people like you did, and then hitting the quarterback. And if you can develop that, take that athleticism that a lot of these guys have, that elite athleticism, and develop the techniques, the pass rush move, the hands, all that stuff, man. That shows up on tape. That's huge for your draft position and for your future.
Yeah, and it seems like that was one of the big reasons that Sark was high on Kenny Baker, right? Bringing him in was because he was a pass rush specialist, teaching pass rushing moves and teaching guys how to become better overall pass rushers. And LeAllen Clark, from what Jeff just broke down there, and from the things that I've heard, that's also his strength as a coach. right? Being able to teach pass rushing skills and pass rushing ability. So it is usually something I always say if you want to become, if you're an elite, great pass rusher, I think you got to have a lot of natural traits. And usually I think it translates to being a natural pass rusher. But there are certain traits that if you have the raw material, it can be molded into a high level pass rusher. And I think Texas is now they know they want to identify those traits because they got the development, right? They know they got guys that can develop that talent. I think they're gonna look for those raw traits and try to really turn these guys into, elite pass rushers across the board in the interior and on the outside. There's already been talk that Leland Clark has helped out, Colin Simmons a little bit. With some of the kind of the minor adjustments, like to his stance, like he needs any help with that BGO, but he may be better in terms of his ball get off just because of some of the different tips that Leland Clark has given him. So I think that's where Sark is going. He understands, pass rush and pressure. It's not just something that you emphasize on the edges. You need it inside. You need it all across your defensive line, period, these days. And I think Texas on the edges, that's why right now they project, in my opinion, I don't know if you got a better edge room in the country considering the talent and now some of the individual coaching you have as well.
Yeah. And run down those edges, Jeff, that the Longhorns are in on here for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you got Drake Quinn's going to announce his decision on Thursday. You got Trenton Henderson coming in this weekend out of Pensacola, Florida. You've also got Luke Wafel out of the state of New Jersey coming in. So yeah, you got some edge guys coming in. We'll see what this does. Again, a guy that you look, okay, when things shake out this weekend based on the feedback and how Texas feels about guys and what guys tell the Texas staff and where they're thinking, what does that do for a guy like Jamarian Carlton out of Temple? Like, does it accelerate his timeline at all? So let's remember when you get these guys on campus and guys start making decisions, it's kind of like defensive line. They just need that first domino to fall, and then you'll start to see a pecking order take place. And again, that's when the staff's gonna have tough decisions to make, recruits gonna have tough decisions to make. I think Jedi Master Bevo said it in a post here in the chat. And this is big boy recruiting. Like this is the reality of it, right? Like these high stakes battles, like I said, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but the ones you win, those are the ones that help you put you over the top. And Rod, I'll add real quick to what you said on Leland Clark. Think about the trust that Sark and PK had to have when making this hire for PK to remove himself from being a position coach, because he's coached the edge group since he got here, but to remove himself from being a position coach and just being kind of a, for lack of a better term, kind of like a CEO defensive coordinator where he just has an overview of the whole thing now. Man, PK's an edge guy. He's a front guy. Like you had to have a hell of a lot of trust, not just in Kenny Baker, but in hiring Leland Clark to be a little more hands-off with that group than you otherwise would be.
It's a great point. Yeah, considering what people think of Colin Simmons and his upside, and you're going to put what a lot of people are saying it's got upside to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, and you're going to place that young development in the hands of Leland Clark. I'm with you. I think that's a hell of a point, Jeff. That's quite the compliment. No question.
Yeah, he's a specialist in the field. And I believe in Ohio, he had, in addition to his work with Ohio State, because he wasn't like an official coach there. He was one of those analyst types, but he ran his own facility, right? Where he
performance camp.
Performance camp for pass rushers. Yeah. And Sark and then Texas looked at it and said, man, let's make him our edge coach. And he can do that here in Texas and he can do both. And that is such a premium in the sport of football right now at this level, and certainly at the next level, no question about it.
Real quick, Richard Wesley from California was the other edge coming in this week. I couldn't read my chicken scratch and the name was escaping me, but yeah, Richard Wesley out of Sierra Canyon out in California.
All right, we're going to look at
and another random thing about Leland Clark that kind of added value. Talked about him as a great developer of talent, and you talked about his connections, because he has his own performance academy and kind of performance camp just for pass rushers. So he got all these NFL connections with great pass rushers. He's worked with like Ed Oliver and Daniil Hunter and all these other guys. He's from, I think, Louisiana, right? He's from like Baton
Rouge. Yep.
Baton Rouge, which is actually one of the kind of hot spots in Louisiana for recruiting. So he's got some of those ties to Louisiana too. In Texas, probably for the first time in modern history, Sark wants more of a market share in Louisiana, more so than even Mac did. And Mac dabbled in Louisiana, but Sark, I think Sark wants to actually make an impact, make a splash in Louisiana in more ways than one. Arch, of course, that goes without saying. But I think he wants to continue to do so. It's such a fertile recruiting ground, has been forever. It's just spread out in so many different areas. New Orleans, Baton Rouge. Now you got Shreveport, and you got Monroe. I mean, they got like Louisiana's one of the only places that has like 5 different little pockets for you to recruit from that are really fertile.
To that point, Rod, not that Sark needed help with it, but I would hope that was one of the things that he bent Gary Patterson's ear about a little bit when that year GP was on staff, because you go look at some of those TCU rosters when they were competing for championships. Gary Patterson had guys from whether it was from right across the Texas-Louisiana border up, Shreveport, Monroe, even getting down into New Orleans. Like Gary Patterson, that TCU staff, they were really good at getting into New Orleans and being like, man, how the hell did they find that guy?
Yeah,
guys that aren't even on LSU's radar, TCU was finding. So kind of like what Texas did with Malcolm Roach, except like multiply it by 10, and that's kind of what TCU was doing under Gary Patterson in Louisiana. So hopefully, and Sark had Bo Davis on staff, and Bo had recruited Louisiana long enough, but hopefully GP drops some little insight on that. Here's just kind of some trade secrets I've got from how to recruit Louisiana.
Sure. Yeah. And be a sponge with a guy like Gary Patterson, and another guy, Terry Joseph, had those great inroads in Louisiana. Yep. He's now with the New Orleans Saints. By the way, did you see where the state of Louisiana passed a bill this week to put a tax on sports betting that will help pay for NIL?
I did, yeah. Off the sports. Smart move.
Hey,
smart move.
So if you're an LSU fan and you want Brian Kelly gone, you can bet against LSU, get Brian Kelly fired, and increase the NIL pot for the next coach. That's a triple win if you're an LSU fan.
It says Louisiana will raise taxes on sports betting to divide $24 million across 11 state schools that have D1 football programs to help offset the new House settlement revenue.
That will not be distributed equally, gentlemen.
So there you go.
Yeah, tells me Louisiana Tech is not getting the same share as LSU. The Raging Cajuns probably not.
No.
But that's interesting. So if you're going across the border there into Coshada, or what is that the one? Coshada that's in Louisiana. Jumping in there, making some sports bets, and there's going to be a tax on there that's going straight to football players in the state of Louisiana. And the author of the bill had the quote in there. You can probably find it, Rod. People in Louisiana love football. They love football, man. We're supporting football. There, man.
That'll get you voted back in office.
That's right. Oh man, it's always being creative for sure, especially when we're trying to hold off Texas in some of these recruitments. All right, before we get to Fox Sports put out their impact freshman for 2025, there is a Longhorn on the list, and we will show you that here coming up. Let me tell you about our friends at Allstate. Friend Mark Saunders, do an unbelievable job for a long time, 35 years. How about that? Going on 40 now. He is past 3.5 decades in Central Texas. So if you're looking for better insurance, a better rate, making sure everything is covered, right? That's what you want to make sure when you go to bed every single night. All of your stuff. That would be your cars and your home, of course. Maybe second homes that you have, rental properties that you have. You want to make sure everything is covered, and you will, and you'll be in good hands. So with more than 35 years of experience with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're not sure and you're thinking, no, what if everything's not covered? Make sure it is. Make that phone call tomorrow. Make sure your rate is where it needs to be, your monthly payments as well. 218-8571. That's 218-8571. Insurance they'll raise those rates. You want to be paying attention to it. Make sure you're getting yours looked at, and make Mark Saunders your call tomorrow. Give Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders that call and ask yourself again, are you in good hands? With more than 35 years in Austin and Travis County, Williamson County, you absolutely will be with the Texas All-State agent and Longhorn alum, Mark Saunders, is all you have to do. All right, guys, I think we have this Fox Sports Impact Freshman list, which I think is interesting. There's some obvious ones that we all know because we follow recruiting, but the Longhorns do have one guy on the list, and that is Khaleke Lockett. 6'2", 187 out of Saxe High. Number 2 overall receiver in the country last year. This is, there are catches, there are opportunities there. We know Ryan Wingo, we know DeAndre Moore, we know the kid Emmett Mosley from Stanford's coming in. But, man, there's an opportunity if you come in and showcase, like we saw Xavier Worthy do, like we saw Matthew Golden do when he walked in here. He was a couple-year player in college. But Kalik Lockett, a name making the fabulous freshman list. What say you guys?
Man, I really hesitate to criticize anybody in the sports media industry, especially trying to cover college football in the middle of June. It's tough. This is just kind of a little bit lazy to me. This is just looking at recruiting rankings and just snagging a guy and not really looking into it. Because Rod, I could name Amari Winston or Nick Townsend. Give me either one of those two tight ends. James Simon. Yeah, you can go to, Cade Phillips, any of those freshman defensive backs. Now, if you wanted to put Jonah Williams on there, I can get down with that. It's nothing against Kalik Lockett, but coming out of spring, even though we didn't, DeAndre Moore wasn't available for the spring, he's in the circle of trust, and so was Ryan Wingo. You feel like Parker Livingstone is in there, and you're not recruiting a portal wide receiver unless you're expecting him to be there. So what? Kalik Lockett's like at best, fifth in line in that receiver room. I mean, on the outside looking at the circle of trust. So it's nothing against Kalik Lockett. You can name. I think that just shows you how talented this freshman class is too, that you can name several guys before you even get to the wide receivers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I agree with you. It's and Sark's circle of trust traditionally, last year it expanded as we predicted it was expand last year, but usually it's a pretty tight circle of trust. I think this year it'll contract once again. I think it'll be a smaller circle of trust. I'm with you, Jeff. I do think Parker Livingstone, white chocolate as they like to call him, is in the circle of trust. Emmett Mosley, there's a really good track record with Sark and transfer wide receivers. There have been some that really hadn't worked out, but Emmett Mosley's got 2 years, most years have to work out. I think he does fit into what Sark wants to do and kind of fit the arch type of receiver. That I think the kind of the mold of receiver is changing for Texas a little bit. I think Emmett mostly fits that. So I agree with Jeff. I think I'll probably go with Justice Terry. I think they try to figure out a way to use him on that NASCAR package or in some way. He could be one of those guys that you can have an impact early. I love your Nick Townsend suggestion too. Jerry's been really high on Nick Townsend. Says when he steps on campus, he's already going to be on the top. I want to say he said, I don't want to put words in Jerry's mouth, but he'd be one of the top athletes on the roster, like immediately. Like as soon as he steps there, he's going to be already one of the best athletes in that locker room, and that's saying a lot considering how loaded that team is. And other than Jack injuries, we're still waiting to see if Jordan Washington works out at that other tight end, Spencer Shannon, those kind of guys. So I could see a young guy coming in having an impact there too. But I'm with Jeff. I think this is maybe a long shot, but it's a loaded class. Hell, someone told me Lance Jackson could be a guy that they'll be shocked if you see him because his body is just, his frame is just something you can't ignore. Like that dude is just massive, and if he can flash early, the coaches may decide, hey, let's put him out there a little bit more. So I think they got a lot of guys that you could probably make that claim with.
Selfishly, I need Jonah Williams to win 2 SEC championships in 2 different sports in a calendar year, just to do it, and then. Texas Athletic Marketing, Drew Martin and Company, if you're listening. If that happens, I need Jonah Williams to recreate the Bo Jackson black and white picture where he's got the shoulder pads with the bat across his back. I need Jonah Williams in the Bo Jackson bat with shoulder pads image.
I agree with Jerry, though, on the Jonah Williams thing. I don't know, maybe in that dime package that they throw out there, right? Maybe he can crack that dime package. I don't know if he necessarily cracks the rotation of safety, especially as he's coming from baseball, so he's a little bit behind some of those guys, and they're deep, especially at safety in the secondary, not necessarily a corner. But the punt return game,
yeah.
And I agree. I've watched him. He's big, but he's twitchy. He's big. It's hard. That's a rare combination to be big and twitchy. And he breaks tackles really well, and he's got great instincts. And punt return, a lot of the punt return is just instinct. That's why Xavier Worthy. He didn't return a punt in high school. He was on a punt return in high school. He has great instincts, and you got to be somewhat fearless because being a punt returner is, man, that's nightmare fuel for most people. So you got to be fearless. He is that. I talked to Slosh about him, so I was like, no, he's fearless, period. He's fearless. He's really, I said, twitchy, so he can kind of break that first tackle for you and make some plays. And Texas doesn't have a punt returner right now. And maybe that's a way for a young player like him to contribute right away and then have that kind of splash that you're talking about.
I like that. That's I just remember Michael Griffin coming in and having his impact on special teams, right? That was the first place you saw him. And you saw it in baseball. Jonah Williams is a long strider. He's twitchy, but he's slithery at the same time. Long strides, and he is fierce. Remember it was the great Jameis Winston who was talking about Mike Evans, and he's like, guys from the island, guys from Galveston are different.
The water.
They're different. The brown water. They're different guys. They're a little bit different. And you grew up with water surrounding you, man. You're tougher than most. You know what I'm saying? That's so good.
Rod, you brought this up though, and I do wonder how much. I know Jeff Banks is the special teams coordinator, but with Coach Akina coming back, knowing how much he valued and was not afraid to put starters on special teams units, man, I got to think especially since Jonah's in that safety room with him, I got a feeling he's going to find a way to get Jonah Williams. Okay, we might not be able to get him on the field in a like maybe even a sub package, but I think Coach Akina put him on the posse block and like something. He'll find something for Jonah Williams to do where he can impact the game. If he's healthy, he's just too talented to not help.
I could see that. I'm with you. Especially given the track record, like you said, Coach Aquino wants to put his best players on special teams to contribute. I definitely could see. Honestly, I'm not saying he won't end up playing, guys. Like, if knock on wood, say there are some injuries at a position or something, and they kind of throw him out there and rotate, or they, Sark says early in the season, maybe not Ohio State. If you see him in Ohio State game, then he's probably going to be starting by the end of the year. If his trajectory and rate of development are that fast, and he ends up getting reps in that game, then all right, then he's probably going to end up being that dude. I don't think that'll be the case, but you'll see him in those other games, right? The UTEP and Sam Houston and all that kind of stuff. And if he in those games, you see him make some freaky, flashy stuff in those games potentially. I don't know if he's back from injury and everything. If something happens in those games, then maybe they'll want to see more from him. I just think they want him to get completely healthy. That's why you won't see him. Like I said, I don't know how that kind of stuff works. They want to make sure he's completely healthy. So I don't know what he's doing with the team right now and how involved he is. So that'll set him back a little bit more. But when he's ready to go, I've said before, I think he's got Thorpe Award material, like Thorpe Award raw goods and raw instincts and raw material as a DB. And I do think when he starts as a player, or whenever he starts to get into the rotation as a player, he will have an immediate impact on the game, like just like he did with baseball, like just like that. Like as soon as he starts playing more and getting more reps, he's going to have an immediate impact on the game. Some guys are just like that. Colin Simmons is like that. Texas had a few freshmen like that. They're just phenoms. They're prodigies. As soon as they step on the field, it's just like remember Bijan? Bijan step on the field and it's like, damn, he immediately impacted the game as a freshman. As soon as he stepped out there. Some guys, they are just that advanced. I do believe Jonah Williams is in that kind of category. Now, those guys are rare, but I do think he's in that category. So I'm not saying it'll be this season early on, but whenever it happens, it's going to be a force.
He went from recovering from a collarbone injury his senior year, didn't have a proper baseball fall, was behind the 8 ball when he got to campus, wasn't expecting much from him. He ends up playing 12 games, starting 10 in SEC play, hits over 300, and plays a pretty big role, and you win in a conference championship. The guy, I know we say this, like, he should have been a senior in high school, and he's your starting left fielder.
Yeah. Like, in an NCAA regional.
He's special, man. He's special.
Yeah, he is. He's got it written all. And you just said it, Rod. I mean, those guys, I tend to lean into the idea that this won't be a year where Texas has a freshman All-American, because I think they are too deep at a lot of places where it's going to be hard to get those snaps. But because, when Kelvin Banks came in, he had to play. Xavier Worthy had to play. Anthony Hill had to get on the field. Colin Simmons at some level last year, he's just too good. And maybe there is one. I could be dead wrong on that. I just think it's going to be hard to find that place with the team that's this talented. But if there is one or two, you guys mentioned them, and Jonah Williams would be 1A. And if somebody put it in the chat, he's going to be our punt. That was Jedi. We are our punt block specialist. That's what Michael Griffin was early, Rod. You remember that? Yeah. When Griff came in, he was coming off edges, blocking punts all the dang time.
Yep, and that's kind of that's what Jeff was talking about. But Michael Griff, I will say this: he had a now Jonah may have it too. I don't know if you've had a better like kick blocker period than Michael Griffin. He blocked a lot of kicks.
A lot of kicks.
And
he almost blocked a lot more.
Yeah, like he just had a knack for it, anticipation, whatever. I blocked a few, but that dude blocked a lot of kicks. So but I agree with you. I think you're right. I think Coach Aquina may try to use him in that way too, as a guy that potentially could block kicks. So somebody in the chat said we can get back to blocking punts again. Maybe with a guy like that, he's just a natural football player. It's a ball player.
Rod, this freshman class, you just said it. It just triggered something for me. This class reminds me of the last time Texas had a number one class was that 2002 class, your senior year. That team was so loaded. A lot of those guys didn't need to play. I mean, I think people forget, like Vince Young redshirted because he wasn't playing over Chris Sims. Chance Mock was your backup. Matt Nordgren was your third string quarterback. I mean, granted, VY would have got snaps over Nordco, but you know what I'm saying? Like that quarterback room, like there was no reason to. You know, like it was only a handful of guys like Selvin Young, David Thomas, young Rod Wright. There weren't that many guys that played like Studdard and Sidline and Blaylock. All those freshman offensive linemen got the red shirt. Like that's part of what made that 2005 team so good is a lot of those guys got to red shirt, or at least if they did play, it wasn't a lot of high leverage snaps. They got to learn from a Rod Babers, a Corey Redding, a Chris Sims, a Brock Edwards, a Derek Dockery, whoever it was in front of them that, hey, this is how you handle yourself. This is how you conduct yourself in a program. This is the standard. Now you go take it to the next level. And a lot of those guys did. So I think that's going to be the case for this 2025 class. I think the guys that play are going to be the guys that are just very, very special. And you're probably going to have a few guys that are really special that don't play just because there is no path for them to the field right now.
Yeah, I think you guys. I mean, I heard Jerry rave about Nick Townsend's ability, and that's a position where there is some opportunity for sure at tight end. And Justice Terry might just be the man child. You just don't know. I mean, we see the body, the pictures, and we'll see. But Jonah Williams has already shown that in baseball that he is a special kind of player, special kind of athlete, special kind of competitor too. I mean, he took some heat for the histrionics at times in the batter's box, but man, you can just tell he's an elite level competitor on top of everything for sure. All right, Rod, tell them about Andy Ludicky one more time. We'll dive into a couple more topics, take some questions, but having a great time on the Tuesday Texas football live stream. Andy Ludicky always wraps us up.
Yes, sir. Thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. You may be someone like myself that has their hands in multiple different businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, well, Andy and his team will take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your time allotment and your skill sets and your financial goals as well. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, just reach out to Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Appreciate Andy and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football.
One of our chat participants says that Casey Studdard blocked a punt under Dwayne Aquina. That's true. Remember when Casey jumped? Remember when he jumped over the deal?
that is why I did not know that. I did not know that at all.
Oh man, see, Matthew might be able to find the YouTube video of Casey Studdard jumping over. Funny. Yeah, he jumped over the wedge blocker and jumped and got a block, and he got somersaulted, but he got that son of a gun. That was awesome. That guy, and if you talk to Casey about it, man, he'll tell you that's one of his proudest moments. That was
you're the
elite athleticism.
Wow. Put yourself in the shoes. You're the up back on Oklahoma State's punt team. He has like a 10-yard running start, and he's coming right out. Like, what do you do? Like, you just, I don't know.
Do what he did. You go low, and then Casey's like,
go low and pray.
Exactly. That's exactly what you do.
That is so funny. That is good stuff.
Oh, we got a couple of questions here. I know I'm just going to throw these out there real quick because I know we're getting close to the end of things. How about this one from Marco? Says, Rod, did you ever go up against Vince when he was on the scout team? We did go up against Vince on the scout team. We knew Vince was special. I'm from Houston. I played against Vince in 17-5A. We were in the same district. So I didn't play against him, but I went back to watch Lamar versus Madison because those were the two. They had the two longest tenured head coaches in HISD at the time. Tom Nolan and Ray Seals.
Yep.
They were the longest tenured at the time. So they were two made men in Houston anyway. And Houston Lamar, which still produces a lot of NFL players, guys, as you know. Basically, you could argue at the time they were the two best programs in HISD. Was Houston and Madison at the time. Like they were really good. Like Katy and North Shore, that's in a different district. We're talking about Houston Independent School District at the time. So I went back and watched it, and we all knew Vince Young was special. And he lit up, and he lit Lamar up too every damn time. So yes, but I was warning people about VY when he came. I was like, just y'all better watch out. This dude's gonna show out. And of course, he made me sound like a genius. So there you go. Also, Marco wants to know, is Arch running his own evening practices like Vince did in 2005? I love Vince's sign in 2005 stating for his team to meet him at night for a practice if they want to beat Ohio State. All the quarterbacks do that.
Yeah.
Chris Sims had his own keys to the practice facility. If you're the starting quarterback, you get like the keys to the practice facilities. You can get in anytime you want to and go throw anytime you want to. Day or night. You can go out there and throw at 3 a.m. if you want to, and you and your boys. That's the kind of cool part about that. So there you go.
Yeah.
Arch not to lose the keys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't lose the keys.
I don't worry about Arch working. I mean, the level of dedication Arch puts into it. He talked about in the spring how, like, with Cole Hudson making the transition to center, they were together at they were both at Hayden Connor's wedding, and Arch said they were, getting some snaps in whenever they could. So I'm like, man, if you're using like free time away from the field to make sure you're getting your new starting center that you guys are up to par on the exchange, then I don't worry about Arch. It would be a bigger story if he wasn't. Put it that way. Like it's pretty much standard practice now that happens.
Agreed with that. That's for sure. Alan wants to know, is Ryan Wingo going to emerge as the number one receiver? I
think so.
Yeah, I think so.
We remember early last year, Rod. He was on the watch-alongs and the live stream during the games. I mean, he was a 30-yard play every time he touched the ball.
Pretty much.
And, as that continues today, he was one of the guys you just talked about. That, and go back to that Khalik Lockett thing from Fox Sports. They used Ryan Wingo as an example, and they were talking about. And I think I agree with you, Jeff, about. It's June, and you're looking. I'm sure his boss said, "Hey, give me 10 freshmen. They're going to click," and he had to go write that. And so Texas lost a bunch of receivers to the draft. Arch Manning's the quarterback. Who's going to be the guy? Khalik Lockett was our number 2 receiver. But Ryan Wingo flashed last year, and I do think. I think Jeff, you're the historian on this. When was the last time Texas had a 5-star quarterback, running back, and receiver? That there were the triplets.
Sims,
Roy Williams.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it would have been VY, Cedric Benson, and Roy Williams. Yeah.
Wow. No, I mean, because that's what Ryan CJ Baxter healthy. He's 5-star. Yeah. Wingo 5-star. Arch, of course, is Arch.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. That's first time since VY. And Ted B.
Yeah. I would think that there's going to be a sizable chip on Ryan Wingo's shoulder going to the Ohio State game because he's not going to be the wide receiver that everybody in the country talks about going to that game.
Good point.
It's all going to be about Jeremiah Smith. And if I'm Ryan Wingo, there would be no better way to start off your sophomore year than going to Columbus and balling out and outdoing Jeremiah Smith in his house.
Do what Gunnar Helm did to Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
Who's this Gunnar Helm kid? That's the real best tight end on the field today.
Yeah, well, and that's a rebuilt Ohio State secondary, and pretty much their defense, but certainly in the secondary, they're rebuilt. I mean, they got one guy back there, so they're going to test that early, and it's got Matt Patricia is in to run the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So much like Wink Martindale last year for Michigan, they're going to they'll have some surprises, I'm sure, but same time. Texas is going to challenge that, and Ryan Wingo will challenge that. Whereas Texas comes back, pretty intact in that secondary for Jeremiah Smith, and they just saw him back in January at the Cotton Bowl. So a lot of those guys were already familiar with Jeremiah Smith, including Michael Taft, who will be the quarterback back there. That'll be fun to watch. But you're right, Jeff, about that, the chip on the shoulder. Well, and one guy that I've heard, and maybe you've heard this too, Jeff and Rod, that C.J. Baxter's got a real chip on his shoulder to get back. I mean, he is ready to get after it. I saw him. Everybody saw him up at the softball games. He goes out with Mia Scott, the third baseman, and they date. And then he's chomping at the bit to get back on the football field. I know it'll be a medical training staff thing, but by all accounts, he's ready to come out of the gates. And I think it was your guy Nick Shuley, Rod, that told me that you've seen him at softball games. He looks like he did the Priest Holmes thing where you hurt your knee and you just get in the weight room and get pumped. Get pumped.
Yeah. Take that frustration out in the weights. No, I would just make sure that he is 100% healthy, because I think you have the luxury of a Trey Wisner. I'm sure he's gonna come back strong, but I can't right now lose the thought in my mind of having basically two starting running backs, one for the first part of the season and then one for the second part of the season, and the second part being C.J. Baxter kind of takes over the reins as your starter with fresh legs in the middle of the SEC schedule, and you can just start running downhill on teams with an NFL running back. I don't know, that appeals to me thinking about that.
I agree with you. If Wisner can man it, the Ohio State game is what it is, and then you got the 3 very winnable games and then the bye, and then you got Florida and Oklahoma. All right, and you're gonna.
That's when you need them. That's when you
need a big back like that going to Gainesville, playing the Brett Venables defense. Then you throw the Thunder and Lightning combination at them. Yeah, that could be something.
I'm glad you mentioned Priest Holmes there, because you think back to that 96 season. I mean, it was kind of a train wreck in the middle, but Texas ends up winning the Big 12. Priest comes back from the injury. He missed all in 95. He comes back for 96. Well, Texas already has Sean Mitchell established. Ricky's a freshman. So Priest is kind of the guy on the outside looking in. Nobody remembers that now. What do they remember? They remember Priest Holmes running it up Nebraska's backside in that Big 12 championship game, running behind Dan Neal on those counters. So that's in that kind of that same vein. That's what C.J. Baxter can do. Like, hey, nobody's going to remember the injury. Nobody's going to remember when you came back. Just if you come back and in those big high leverage moments you can produce, that's all anybody's going to remember, and your career is going to get back on the trajectory it was before the injury.
Yeah, especially in the red zone, especially goal line situations. Well, and you remember, Jeff, but Priest Holmes came back from that injury, got hurt in spring. Remember, he had the 4-touchdown game in the Sun Bowl. Yeah. And then, Bucky always talks about how he ends up getting hurt in the spring, and everybody blamed him for letting Priest get hurt in the spring. And so he didn't play the year, and then he came back, and he looked like a Greek god. He looked like something out of a fitness, like he was unbelievably cut. Like he would walk through the media availabilities with his shirt off, and it was like, oh my gosh, who is that guy? He used to be on the cover of Mr. Atlas magazine or something, and he ran like it, man. Because that's what made him an undrafted player, and playing, as you said, in the crowded backfield with Mitchell and Ricky. He ends up as a Hall of Fame player almost with the Ravens and the Chiefs. That guy was unbelievable, and it's really that work he put in during the injury time to really go from a real good player to a great player. And we'll see if CJ was 5-star coming out. So that'll be fun to watch. All right, guys, great stuff tonight. Any more questions we need to get to, Rod?
I think we one more. Jedi Master wants to know, who are your 4 captains you walk out? Arch, Anthony Hill, Taft. The 4th one is interesting. Maybe I'll go Trey Wisner, actually.
Yeah.
1,000-yard back who earned the trust of the coaches, started out on special teams. Sounds like a captain to me.
Sound like a captain, yep. I think that's a good go. That's a good go. All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. That was fun. Awesome. Can't get here fast enough. Inside a month to the SEC Media Days. Gosh, we're 2 weeks from today to the July 1st New World Order, salary cap and everything else that's coming. So we'll certainly have that to talk about as it plays out. And here we go. Aggies, according to Billy Lucci, have the number 2 class in America. So we'll follow it. Big stuff coming. Thursday's a big commitment. And obviously on Texas football, we'll lock you in. Coffee and football and the crew there. All the conversations that never stop here on the On Texas Football channel. Thank you for making us part of your daily conversation. And guys, awesome stuff. We appreciate it. Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, E. Hook 'em.